There's a well-known adage that goes something like this. Wherever you go, there you are. Well, I guess it isn't that well known, or I'd be able to tell you exactly how it goes.
There's a bumper sticker that reads, "I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as fast as I could." Oh, that doesn't refer to me. No, I never planned to come to Texas. If you told me I was going to end up in Texas, I would have laughed and laughed and laughed. But I had always wanted to come to America, the land of opportunity, the land of new beginnings. And boy, did I ever need a new beginning. Actually, I needed a new me, a new improved me. And this wasn't the first time. I tried to find a new improved me in Africa. But after 18 months in Libya, I was still shy and lacked confidence. But I learned how to smoke cigarettes and make wine in a bucket. I tried to find a new me in the Persian Gulf. But after 5 years in Dubai, all I learned was how to work a 10-hour day, a 6-day week. I still had low self-esteem and high anxiety. If I changed anything, it wasn't for the better. I was more lost than ever. I needed another place to find another version of me, so it was decided. The new me in the new world. America, here I come. Statue of Liberty. Give me your paw, give me your... I came to Texas to spend 1 week with the only person I knew in America. You see, I was on my way to Los Angeles to become a movie actress. Yes, I had decided that the best way to combat shyness, lack of confidence, low self-esteem and high anxiety was to go to Hollywood. My friend Ellen had gone to the University of Texas in Austin, and like many before her, loved Austin so much that she never left. Our mothers had been pen friends since the 1940s, and as soon as Ellen and I were old enough, we became pen pals too. In the 80s, she backpacked through Europe, and she spent time with my family in England. And she always said that if I wanted to, I could do the same thing in the US. And I hope she meant it, because I was on my way. As I sat on the plane, on that first flight from England to America, I realized how blasé I'd become. Nothing surprised me anymore. After living in North Africa and the Middle East, I felt like I was culture shock proof. I sat there and thought about what I'd done to get me to this point. Sold my house, sold my car, sold my boyfriend. No, I just left him. No one would have paid good money for him. I gathered all my money, I bought my ticket, and here I was. Some people thought me brave, some thought me stupid. I felt like I was teetering on a tightrope between bravery and stupidity, a line that was getting harder and harder to distinguish. It was like Cirque du Soleil. On one side I could dive into clear, sparkling water, and on the other side, alligators. I just tried not to think about it. I was due in Houston with a short break before the local flight to Austin. After a scary landing, one of those white-knuckled, eye-popping, stroke-inducing landings, it was clear that there were weather issues. Now, for all my travels, I'm not a good flyer. I still believe that group willpower gets the plane off the ground and fervent prayer lands it. When there's turbulence and fear grips me, I have been known to hold the hand of fellow passengers so hard they wince with pain. I once threw my arms around the man sitting next to me and snuggled with him for over an hour, so great was my need for comfort. It was embarrassing at that point having to introduce myself. Hello, I like your tie. Houston was engulfed in fog. Fog so bad that all the flights flights were grounded and passengers were sent to hotels for the night. The metaphor of being lost in the fog was not lost on me. And I hope the irony of an English woman arriving in America on a foggy night is not lost on you. You guys are always teasing me about the weather. Wherever I go, people give me a hard time, especially about the fog. London smog, you say. Like a pea soup, you say. So thick you can cut it with a knife. But I have never seen fog like Houston fog. It is an entity, a great all-encompassing blanket of greyness, like something from a Stephen King novel. Nothing was visible as we came in, nothing at all. So my first memory of Texas is of walking from the shuttle bus to the hotel and being soaked from head to foot before I even walked through the door. Now, I thought I might be dripping with sweat. I knew that in October it could be in the 90s in Houston, but I didn't think I'd be dripping with fog. In England, we're discombobulated by fog, disenchanted with fog, depressed even by fog, but we're never drenched in fog. Everyone said things were big in Texas, but I wasn't expecting big fog. Well, the next day, the sun was shining, the sky was blue, but for reasons connected with my luggage and the loss of it, we didn't set out for Austin until late afternoon, early evening, but here I was at last, and there was Ellen to greet me. Oh, Miller International Airport. Oh, so sweet that they called it international. Weird from the very start. As we waited for my luggage, I looked around me. Where were all the guns I'd heard so much about? Everywhere I'd ever lived, people talked about America and its guns. The murder rate, the availability of guns, the number of prisons required to accommodate misguided gun users. These were subjects the rest of the world talked about all the time. Now, I had lived in some scary countries, but I had never lived anywhere where ordinary citizens were allowed to carry firearms. Now, I wasn't expecting to see automatic weapons, but I did expect to see handguns in holsters. I didn't see any. Where were the guns then? I wasn't disappointed, just surprised. Were they in people's handbags? Were they in their pockets? Were they up their trouser legs? I looked at Ellen. Did she have a gun? I didn't want to ask her. It might embarrass her. It might upset her. She might shoot me. As we dragged my luggage away from the carousels, I noticed that there was a policeman standing by the door. He was just generally keeping an eye on proceedings, but he had a gun in a holster. My first, totally visible to the human eye, ready to shoot me American gun. And I thought about English policemen who aren't allowed to carry firearms. I thought about those truncheons they have, you know, the sticks they carry to ward off the angry mob. And I realised how charmingly pathetic they must be. I found myself staring at the policeman's gun. I couldn't take my eyes off it. All of a sudden he put his hand on the holster. Everything all right, man. I giggled like a silly schoolgirl, and I was through that door like a bat out of the proverbial, into the blinding sunlight of an October evening in Austin, state capital of Texas. Now, I'm not quite sure what I expected, because I wasn't aware until the gun incident that I had any preconceived ideas at all. Remember, culture shock proof. But I must say, when I came out of the airport, I thought there would be more hats. And I don't mean baseball caps, backwards or otherwise. I don't mean ladies' sun hats or sombreros or big flowery church hats. No, I mean Stetsons, 10-gallon hats, cowboy hats. Had I landed in the wrong state? Wasn't this Texas? Wasn't this cowboy country? Oh, I did see a kind of a cowboy a week later at an Austin nightclub called Dallas. These were strange cowboys, tall, thin, and almost uniformly dapper. Howdy. They wore straight, well-ironed jeans with razor-sharp creases down the front, ending in concertina denim on ornate cowboy boots. Their shirts were so starched they could barely move their legs, apart from to lift their arms to dance. They danced an odd, rather unmasculine dance called the two-step. They kept their hats on indoors, which I thought rather uncouth. My mother would not have approved. But I digress. I must say I was rather disappointed that there was no fiesta to greet me, no hoedown in my honour. And as we were driving away from the airport, I was still searching for a John Wayne look-alike, when Ellen asked me what I wanted for supper. What are my options, I asked. Well, apparently there were a lot of good restaurants, or we could get a bucket of chicken to go. A bucket of chicken? Well, I was picturing a large metal pail with a dead rooster hanging. Ellen told me about KFC and Church's and their large containers of fried chicken. Any veggies, I ventured? Yep, she said, there's corn on the cob, French fries, mashed potato, and gravy. So Ellen, by this time, had pulled into a 7-Eleven to get gas. I stayed in the car while she pumped the gas, and I saw a young man come out of the 7-Eleven, and he had a large plastic bucket in his hand. Oh, a bucket of chicken. I leaned out of the window. Ellen, look, that guy's got a bucket of chicken. Nope, that's a big gulp. Now, at first, I couldn't work out how much drink there would be in a 64-ounce bucket. But then I remembered my mother's Pyrex measuring jug. 16 ounces equals 1 pint, so 64 ounces is 4 pints. 2 quarts. Oh, that poor boy was going to try and drink half a gallon of Coca-Cola. That sounded like some sort of torture to me. Don't you have to drink 64 ounces of Gatorade when you have a colonoscopy? If I drank 64 ounces of highly caffeinated soda, I'd be able to swim the Atlantic faster than Wonder Woman. I could win Olympic gold at the 10,000 meters. I could knit you a sweater in 8 minutes. I can't even knit. So we ended up in Threadgill's, which is something of an Austin tradition, you know, a southern-style restaurant. It got the first beer license in the county in 1933. Janis Joplin cut her teeth there in the 60s. In 1992, Bernadette Nason had her first American meal there on her way to Los Angeles. Well, you know, Americans are always calling English things quaint. But to me, Threadgill's was quaint. And a bit, well, shabby. A coat of paint wouldn't have gone amiss. The cutlery was cheap-looking. The crockery was mismatched. Well, I didn't know then that Austin was famous for being shabby. Austin knew that shabby was chic before shabby chic was fashionable. You have to cut me some slack here. Don't forget, I've been travelling for nearly 48 hours. I was hot and tired and irritable. I was disgruntled before disgruntled was fashionable. I wanted fish and chips. I wanted apple crumble and sweet yellow custard. I wanted a cup of tea. I wanted my money. I looked at the menu through tear-filled eyes. There was something called catfish and French fries, which looked a lot like fish and chips. And there was something called apple cobbler à la mode, which looked a little bit like apple crumble and custard. I was just looking for the American equivalent of a nice English cuppa when a waitress arrived at the table. "Iced tea, hun," she said, placing before me a large glass dripping with condensation, and sweet-smelling breads in a basket wrapped in a red checkered napkin. I took my first bite of succulent southern cornbread and my first sip of sweet Texas tea. And all of a sudden, things took on a new light. Started to look a bit better, and I started to feel better too. All right, I thought. In my attempts at self-improvement, I managed 18 months in Libya, 5 years in the Persian Gulf. I think I can manage 1 week in Austin, Texas. This is as good a place to start as any. And as I reached for a second piece of cornbread and took another sip of that tea, I could feel myself smiling. I could feel a new leaf turning, and then I wondered if I was, after all, a clever girl.